Hello, I'm Steve.
And I'm Tracy.
And we are the Partners at War. Well, this is episode 4 in our series.
I know, we're running out of alliances.
Yes, we are. But once again, if you do enjoy this series, we do ask that you consider subscribing and liking, making a comment. We're not monetizing, but it definitely helps keep us motivated.
Right. When we see those likes go up and the comments come in, it really makes us go, oh, wow, people are interested in this. So.
And we do read and respond to most of the comments. With that, we would like to get a battle report out sometime next month, but we can't commit to that because, as we said, we're both in education. I'm actually a school superintendent having to plan for a school district on the upcoming month, so it's a little hectic right now.
Yep. And we have had a couple tournaments at local game stores, so we've actually been able to play recently, which is kind of a priority.
And we have 2 coming up. August 22nd, the Siege World in Collinsville, Illinois, or in central Illinois. And then the 29th, Reader's World in Springfield, Illinois. They've asked us to be this will be for our first tournament organizer event.
Yeah,
so we're going to be organizing
big
that.
TOs, we need to get t-shirts or something.
But with that, we did go to just a local game store, game night in St. Louis. LaRon, thank you so much for running that. You and your buddies down there, always great to play with.
Very fun.
I had a new Seraphim build. I decided to go with Jacothian's Tail and Croak and a Slan and 3 Salamanders before the points increase. And guess what? The points should have been increased because they're ridiculously good. And we played on Saturday, and what happened?
Our practice game?
Yes.
Okay, so our practice game, I played against that army with my FEC, and I got demoralized. I mean, completely. I was almost tabled turn 1.5.
Yes.
And it was awful.
It was awful. It really was. And I just went, oh my gosh, I'm going down here with this Baroque army. And it didn't bother me as much going to this store because there are a lot of really good players there.
Very
great guys,
good players,
but Paul, who ended up winning it, his Zinch build's a little unbalanced, but he got max points in every game.
Yes, he did.
So, and I won't spoil the rest of it there. So I go down there, and here's the weakness for new players. It's not about killing. It's about getting objective points. I had a tremendously killy build that was killing everything. Our first 2 battles had 6 objective points, and I did not have the numbers to score points. So even though I had this battle Baroque build, I lost the first 2 games. And that was quite shocking on the way down.
It was, because I thought for sure, I was like, wow, Steve, I think you have a chance of taking this tournament because you are, you wiped me out.
And the last game was knife to the heart with 2 objectives, and I just wiped the guy right off the board.
Yeah.
But it's not about killing, it's about getting points. And in the new book, there are quite a few 6 objective point scenarios. So I do think hordes, which we'll talk about today in some of our armies, is definitely an advantage, will come to play. And how did you do, Miss? Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to do well, and I don't even know if I want to go because I'm doing more. So how'd you do?
Okay, so I may have thrown a bit of a temper tantrum after being wiped off the table.
At home, not at the store.
At home, yes. So I wasn't sure I wanted to go the next day to play the tournament. And I did really well. I did. The FEC is a tough army. So
how well?
Yeah, second.
So she got second. Yeah. So she comes home 2-1, or was it? Or did you win all 3?
It was 2 and a draw.
2 and a draw. I went 1-2, and I finished 4th from the bottom, and Tracy was second at the top. So yes. Sometimes you just can't tell till you play the games.
Well, I do want to say, though, one of the reasons that we're doing this is for new players, and that illustrates one of the big parts about this game is that you have to be able to take objectives and table control, which we talk about in this in terms of the flexibility and the ability to move around the table. That is really important if you're going to use this as any kind of competitive platform.
One of my losses was to Night Haunt. And we talked in our video about how Night Haunt is just not a competitive build. He had hordes and hordes and hordes and was able to take the points. Yeah. I could have wiped him off the table. but I could not have matched him on points. So if I'm going to do that build again, I got to throw in more units of numbers. Well, enough with that. Let's get on to this video, which is about destruction. And this is the last of our series. And I'm wearing my Eat Sleep Wah shirt.
Yes, because we always say it wrong.
I said WOG in our battle report, and the people across the pond in England, I got quite a few. It's WA, it's so I will say that correctly for our European viewers from now on. And so Eat Sleep WA, and you have quite a few Gloomspite shirts, don't you?
I do, because before I went to FEC, I was playing Gloomspite a lot, and I do love them. I can't wait to talk about them today. So I have several of those because I figured we would have to do several different battle reports to cover all of Gloomspite.
We've done several already, and we'll probably do more over time. One reason we spoke about the tournament scene once, we wanted to show that we're back into it, we're getting involved, and we think knowing what we're doing, it helps build excitement, but also it might be one of the episodes that we don't have as much to offer with all the armies as we did in the others.
Right. But although we do have a couple things in this one that did not come up in the last few, so there'll be a little bit of spice there.
And we will start then with our first army. Gloomspite gets... Gloomspite.
Gloomspite gets. This is an army that really attracted me. It had so many cool models to it. And honestly, right off the bat, spiders. That really, I was so excited about the spiders.
Tracy's got a gorgeous spider army with multiple bigs. Oh, it's just fantastic. And then we were excited once again. The new General's Handbook came out,
yeah.
And it's almost as if Games Workshop forgot that spiders suck and needed to have some better points.
I was really holding out, really wishing that we were going to have points reductions on those spider riders.
Oh my
And it didn't
gosh.
happen, so it's a future wish.
But we're not attacking the General Handbook and the new point in that much. That was just an area where Tracy was like, let's find out about the spiders. It was like, no. Really? Spider Riders didn't go down at all, but that's one possible build. Right. Gorgeous.
I think something
models.
we need to bring up about this particular battletome is for new players, once again, you're going to want to go through the battletome first because there are a lot of different builds that you can make with this particular tome. You can go with the spiders, which was what attracted me right at first. And they have trolls or troggoths, they're called, in the tome, and they are super fun.
Which I can say, of all the armies in Age of Sigmar, probably the most suggested Forge World piece in the entire game is this hag.
We have not mentioned Forge World up to this point. We don't have any Forge World for any of the other armies, I don't believe.
I don't think so.
When I decided to go with the Troggoth build, I really wanted this hag from Forge World, and she is beautiful. I really think she's worth the points, although that's an argumentative point for some people. They think that she might be a little expensive points-wise. Just for new players, Forge World is a offshoot of Games Workshop, and it's a separate website that you go to buy their models, but they are accepted in competitive play when you go to tournaments and things like that. But
you will find the occasional tournament that will say no Forge World.
True.
You will find that on occasion.
Their points and their war scrolls are not in Battletome. You have to actually download those from the website.
They are in the app on Azir.
Yeah, so you can add them to your army and points and things, but you won't find those models in the actual Battletome.
Anybody seen the huge dragon that there is for Khorne?
Corn dragon.
That
I fought that.
Dragon, and the Dreadsaurian for the Seraphim.
Yep.
There's a lot of models you will see if you go to tournaments, and you'll say, where did this come from? And it's not in the books. They're Forge World pieces.
Yes.
And people have different opinions about Forge World. I do think in Age of Sigmar it's not as big of an issue as sometimes it can be in 40K. with some people having some problems with Forge World. But there's a lot of great pieces you can see.
They have some amazing monsters as well.
Yes. They do.
That you can add. The Rogue Idol is super cool.
Which I played against him, or when we get to the Orc War Clans, we talk about the Bone Splitters.
Yeah.
He's a great model.
Yeah. Another thing that we haven't brought up is terrain pieces. I don't know why we haven't. Many of the different battle tomes offer a terrain piece as well. Now, typically a terrain piece doesn't cost you any points. It'll cost you dollars to buy it, but it will give it will give you some sort of benefit to your army. If the only benefit is that you can use it for blocking, or you can use it to guard some of your models, things like that. That can come in handy. So again, it's not something you have to have, but if your army offers a terrain piece, sometimes that's nice to have as well.
But I also think you need to investigate whether the terrain piece is needed. Some armies, absolutely, it's a must-have. I would say, for the most part, you're going to have yours if you're playing Gloomspite.
Especially if you're going with the Goblin build.
Absolutely. With that build for what it can do for them.
Yeah.
But Seraphim, I don't see a need.
Oh yeah,
to get that
pyramid.
That pyramid is an absolute complete waste. So for all of our new players, when you jump into a new army, check to see whether the terrain piece is mandatory. Khorne, certain builds it works, other builds it's not needed at all.
Right.
So there's different ways you can build armies, and sometimes the terrain features are really wonderful. Sylvaneth, of course.
You need those wildwoods.
You need that. Yeah. But some other armies, it's a give and take.
Right. For my FEC, I have a throne, and that gives the ability to not have to use a command point when I bring in troops, which is kind of cool. But it's not something that would be a make or break if you didn't have it.
If you did all bigs on Terrorgeist and everything else, it's almost not even needed.
Right.
So it depends on how you're going to build your army. Okay, what other type of army can you build and you have a full build of with that you love?
I do. I do. So I started with spiders, loved them, but realized they're just really not either my play style or competitive to the point where I needed them to be. So
they're no one's play style right now.
So I went with the Troggoths, which I loved. So then we got the Loon Curse box.
The Loon Curse box set.
Yes, and it had squigs in it.
Which you always said looked stupid.
I really honestly was not a fan until I got them and started painting them and playing with them. And Gloomspite squigs are super fun. They really are. They bounce all over the place. They have some great abilities, and they are really nice models. Although we're taking a little bit of time, there's just so much in this battle tome to cover. So many different builds.
Squigs have another good Forge World piece too. That big squig.
Yeah, the colossal squig.
Yeah,
yes, the colossal squig.
And talking about magnets, as I did in the last video, what is this guy right now?
Right now, he is a Loon boss on a Mangler squig.
But look
at there,
he comes
just
off, and now he is what?
Squig now.
Just a Mangler squig. So there are some things you can do to really help expand your dollars by just some magnets. We spent a little bit of time talking about the different builds you can have, because you really can get 2 or 3 armies, separate armies, completely out of this one battle tome. When we say we've got 19 to 20 fully painted armies, I think 2 of them we're counting are right out of Gloomspite gets.
Right.
Your Troggoths or your Squigs, you've got different builds right there.
Absolutely.
And then your spiders. We could almost have 3 different ones. But let's talk about painting.
This is a good starter army for painting. They're very bumpy.
Nothing takes contrast better than Squigs.
My whole Squig army is done.
You can do Squig army in contrast and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Minimal highlighting afterwards.
Yep.
Really brings the pop back out. Good place to practice that with a contrast and then some edge highlighting.
Yep.
But you're not going to ruin it. Your spider job. That was some of your first layering attempts to go in between colors.
Yes.
And you did a really good job blending.
Honestly, those Rocket Troggoths, those were one of the most fun ones to do.
And they're beautiful. It is a very good place to start painting with this army. Transport, travel, taking them around.
I don't think that they're easy or hard. I think that they travel pretty well.
If you're playing a full Grotz army, it might be one of the easiest.
However, I will say that this terrain piece is ginormous. And I literally have a separate case for it. So when we talk about, do you need it? Really, if you're not playing a Grot heavy army,
And,
I don't
and
know
you're gonna
if I
travel.
would bring it with me everywhere I went, because it really does. It's so high to take really
Yes.
in many things.
That's about the biggest piece. But other than that, they travel pretty well.
Yeah,
no reason
absolutely.
yes, no. Cost.
Well, it depends. Are you going to buy all of the different builds?
It's another one of those armies that you have to do the research first, because you could end up investing a lot of money in models you don't end up using. There are some armies, you play Fire Slayers, just about everybody you buy, you're going to use. This is one, we have, how many? 4?
We have 3 large spiders.
3 large spiders.
And we have 70 spider
And
riders.
70 spider riders, all painted.
Never hit the table.
And I don't know if they'll ever hit the table. So that's a lot of time of painting, money, everything else, because they weren't cheap. So the cost, you have to do the research and you have to know what you want to play.
Right.
This is a risk. There's a risk here that you could spend
There
money
is.
you'll never see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, now let's get on to play styles.
Playstyles.
And it's going to be tough for this one because of all the different builds. Speed, which is speed and board control.
Now, this is where you have a problem if you're going to play an all-Troggoth
Yes.
army. You don't have very many models. You just cannot, and they don't go really all that fast. They're a 6-inch move for your troops, and you're just really not going to be able to take very many objectives.
They are. You can always put that little grot magic user in there, that wizard that's going to do hand to Gork, and try
True.
to just move a unit to the other side.
True.
Even with Troggoths, you've got some flexibility there with magic.
As long as you're willing to bring in the grots.
Correct.
Because some of the magic user grots are really, really good.
Yes.
That fungoid cave shaman, I don't play any build without at least one of them, sometimes 2.
I would say if there's an auto include in all the Gloomspite Gits armies, it's him. So they could get some speed or board control that way. Your squigs can be very
Squigs are quick. They
Very
really are.
fast.
3d6 for some of the movement, 2d6 otherwise. But I will say this. Sometimes they fail on you. The Mangler squig, 3d6. So you're rolling 3 6-sided dice, adding those together, and that's how many inches you can move. So up to 18 inches. That's amazing. Unless you roll a 3.
And it always seems the 3's more than the 18.
Right? Isn't that true?
I'd like to know the math on that, or you just remember those moments. But
Right.
yeah, it always seems that way.
Yeah. So you have to be willing to have a little variety in your game if you're going to play this army.
But if you want to play a board control, there are options out there.
Yes,
You could play
absolutely.
that.
If you're going to play the heavy grot army with lots of magic and the horde,
I don't know why you're doing that when they're like
I
that
don't
big.
know.
I thought you were talking trolls or spiders.
If you're going to play
That's
a grot army where you have an expanse of grots, then you can get better board control.
Yes, you can. Shooting.
I can't say that any of these are shooter
No,
armies.
no.
I will say if you go with the spiders, you get to roll a lot of dice. You're
It's
not
not a
gonna
shooting
hit
army.
very often.
It's an army that some builds might have some shooting in it, but it's not a shooting army.
No, it is not.
Magic? Buff magic?
Again, yes, if you're going to bring the grot magic users, they really can help with movement. They can help with buffing up, but it's not really an
No,
offensive
it's not a
magic.
It's not a magic heavy army.
No.
Killy? Well, there's a couple different ways you can make this army killy. One,
Yes.
if you're a grot intensive army, a lot of dice. And I have a new one, dice equals death, because that happens. Or dice equals damage. I don't know which way it is, but it works either way.
Right.
You roll enough dice with grots, you can kill a lot.
You're going to do damage.
Your rock gut Troggoths.
Oh my gosh, hard hitters. -2 rend, 3 damage each. Honestly, for troop army, because those are battle line in certain builds, you don't usually do that much damage.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of builds will have just rock guts as your battle line and go from there, and not a lot of models to take objectives, but they can do a lot of damage, and when we get to tanky, they're pretty tanky also.
Yes.
But other than that, Mango Squig, he can hit
hitter.
hard.
Yeah,
so
and the thing about the Mangler is that we talk about being tiered. So he starts off really strong.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
right.
then as he takes damage, he gets weaker and weaker. But then he hits a point where he actually gets stronger and
Yeah.
stronger towards the end, which is nice.
it's almost like Scarbrand right there, you know.
A little bit.
It gets a little meaner as he gets angry.
Yes.
You know, that
yes.
happens.
And can be a hard hitter, especially if you get the charge. Yes, he can hit hard.
So it's not going to be just right in your face killy, but you can find the killy in the book to put in your army.
Absolutely.
So they can actually do some damage. Tanky depends upon your build once again. Your rock guts?
Rock guts, you can heal. So depending on where your moon is, you get certain advantages from that. So the nice part about rock guts is you can heal them. The Fellwater Troggoths, they are also a very nice option for the Troggoths. I just don't play them.
You don't play them. A lot of other people do.
They really like them.
Yeah, they got some
They're
negative to
one
hit. Yeah, they got the negative to hit things. So that's pretty good to have them. So there are some tanky options. Also, how is it that you can bring Grots back?
If your entire unit of Grots is wiped out, at the end of your turn you roll a dice, and on a 4+, you get to bring back half of them if you have your Loon Shrine.
Okay.
And then you put them within a certain number of inches of that, and then it's like a whole new unit.
That sounds great, but I have 40, and I get a 50-50 chance of bringing 20 back. I think it's a nice thing to have on top of it. I just wouldn't build your whole build around that.
I will say I don't know that I've ever got to bring them back.
So, flexibility, you've got some speed, you have the Hand of Gork, but I'm not...
Maybe you should explain that, Hand of Gork.
Oh, Hand of Gork is a spell that he can cast, and he takes a unit, picks them up off the table, and pops them someplace back on the table more than 9 inches away from any other enemy models, which is the standard in Age of Sigmar. But that allows you to take one unit and put them elsewhere, right behind your enemy. That is something that makes your enemy a good player, not keep his back door open.
Yes.
And if he does, then you can come in and do some real damage. So that is the type of thing we talk about with flexibility, to be able to shock your opponent, surprise your opponent. I just don't know if it's really prevalent throughout this entire.
I would say that it's actually a very straightforward army. Which is one of the reasons I was drawn to it, I think, early on when I was trying to learn my play style, is that you move forward and you hit things, and you move forward and you hit things. And that really helped me learn the game, actually.
Okay. Competitiveness. We've got a buddy we play with down in St. Louis that he has done very well in tournaments. Now he does the Grot Flood. He still doesn't do Tzeentch, Slaanesh, or Flesh Eater Court level good. He's just a tier below that, but he is also a fantastic player.
Who really knows his army.
Knows his army and has played him over and over and over again. So outside of that, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a mid-level, mid-range. You're going to take them to a tournament and you're going to do pretty well.
If you go to a 100-person, 5-game, 2-day tournament, which is kind of our ideal, we love to go.
Yeah, that's our favorite.
If you can get into that, that's just it's a great group of people for 2 days. If you've got 100, you're going to end up finding some good games as they match everybody. You're going to hit that 2-3. Hopefully, you can get 3-2.
Right.
That's going to be that wheelhouse, right?
You're going to be kind of mid-level.
In the mid-level,
yeah.
Which a lot of times people say mid-level, they're the most fun tables in the entire
most
tournament.
Fun because you're no pressure.
So you're not going to win tournaments. Are you going to have fun, and are you going to feel you're in games? Absolutely.
Yes.
So from that, do you think it's a good place for people to start?
I think it's an amazing place to start. I really do. And my only caution for whether or not to get into this is that you need to choose your build before you just go crazy at the game store.
There's the rule of cool, and a lot of people go by that. Just buy and play what's cool and what you like. This is an army that the rule of cool, we spent a lot of money and a lot of time painting to get a spider army done, and it's just so uncompetitive. Even in our own games at home, it doesn't see the tabletop.
Right.
So this is a risk of rule of cool. So spend a little time analyzing it, talking to people, and then start with one. If you're going to go with Troggoths, I would start there. If you're going to start Grots, I would start there. If you're going to start Squigs, and then start matching them in a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd get a 1,000-point army.
See how you like it, how
you
runs.
like it, play them over and over again before you jump into a 2,000-point army.
I think that's a really good suggestion.
Yeah. And I think with that, it's a great place to start.
I agree.
So, Gloomspite Gids. Big thumbs up, I know, from Tracy. She loves it.
Me too, I love them.
And if they ever changed it, made them just a little bit more competitive, you'd probably be jumping
right back at
them. Back at them. All right, there you go. Auric Warclans. The Big Wah.
Auric Warclans.
Yep. Boy, this one I'm kind of torn on. I really am. These are some amazing models. And they just, the Maw Crusher, Mega Boss and Maw Crusher is just, he's one of your favorites.
He is one of my favorite models, honestly.
He's got such a cute little face in there. He's just...
I want one.
and they're traditional. They're a traditional fantasy feature.
Yes.
The orcs.
Yes.
You know, they look that way, and you can go with the Iron Jaws. You can go with the Bone Splitters. There's so many things about them. I'm just kind of torn about so many things to do with this. I want to like this so much better.
I really do think there's a lot of potential that's being missed right now with the orc.
So let's get into it. Painting wise, the Iron Jaws, that armor can be tough. If you go with the traditional yellow. Yellow is a tough color
is
to paint.
hard. Painting yellow and making it look anything but flat is very difficult.
Or just dirty.
Yeah, so you're going to want to watch some videos on that.
You're going to watch some videos on that. Their skin is easy. Many of those other stuff. The Maw Crusher, all of his ridges and everything else, he's actually very easy to paint.
And I followed a step-by-step video for that one.
So painting, it's all right. There's some things very easy, and other things are somewhat challenging.
Yes.
That's on the Iron Jaws. When it comes to the Bone Splitters, I think a lot of that would be a lot easier because orc flesh can be very easy to paint a color, put a shade.
Especially with the contrast now.
If you want to just dry brush that back and do it, if you don't want to go, or you can do the contrast method. And so, painting might be all right. Travel, I think taking these around and transporting them is going to actually be an easier one. Because unless you're going all Bone Splitters, if you're going Iron Jaws, you don't have a lot of models.
You really don't. Yeah, the models are small units, fairly costly points-wise.
Right.
So you're not going to be able to fit very many models in, even at a 2,000 point army.
Disclaimer, we don't have any Bone Splitters.
True.
We have Iron Jaws. So we're defaulting to that, and I keep having to say, no, remember Bone Splitters are a huge part of this. And our last 2-day tournament, game 1, I played the Sylvaneth and played against a Bone Splitter build. He's a very good player. It was a very close game. It was a very close game with the Idol.
Yeah, with the Rogue Idol.
Great game.
Super cool model.
And I was impressed. They look fun, and that would be something I could see myself playing.
Yes.
Then again, I see myself playing just about everything.
Army.
I'm totally lost on an army once again. We're going to that tournament. I might bring my Sylvaneth back. It's a bad place when you have 18, 19, 20 armies, I don't know, and I can't even figure which one I want to play.
Yeah, I think that speaks more of your indecision than it does AOS.
It does. So we start talking about painting, travel. The Bone Splitters will have more.
Yeah,
but they still aren't huge volumes of them. So I do think travel-wise, it's a very good army to take around and travel with. Cost, once again, when you have a book that has 2 drastically different builds, you have to make sure that you're spending your money in a way that it's all working together.
Right.
If you don't do that, you can end up buying things that won't see the table. There's a lot of people that will not put a Maw Crusher on a table with these armies.
They are very expensive points-wise for the fact that by being such a big target, they usually don't last on the table because everybody just focuses in on them. So they don't really get to see what their potential is.
And so expensive, and the rest of the army is expensive, it means you don't have many models on the table, which is a problem taking objectives.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get into them, you might want to do some research on which of the builds you want first. There is a way you can build them both together and do the big wah, but I do think that takes a more experienced player. We'll talk about that later. Speed.
I played against these guys in a tournament, and I never moved forward, actually. They had all of these Gorgrunters, a whole line of them, came across the table in their turn one.
Got to you in turn 1.
Got to me in turn 1, and I never moved. Literally never moved.
Is there another army that I could play an army and go speed and go, no, they're slow as can be, and somebody else can say, did you play against that other build which got across the table in turn 1? There are builds that can be amazingly fast. And once again, board control, you have the Hand of Gork option, so you can pop a model around the table, you can pop a unit around the table. So if you want a speed-based board control build, you can find it in here.
It's there.
And Some may argue it might be one of the more competitive builds also.
I didn't
so
do
that
very
can
well.
happen. You didn't do very well. I remember that game. You were like, he just came across the table turn 1 and killed me. So yeah. But if you're going to go with the Ardboys, the Brutes, or even the Savage Orcs, you're talking about a 5-inch move, and they're slow. The Savage Orcs have Boar Boys, which are 12 inches, just like the Gore Gruntas, and can move across the table also. So you can find speed and board control in this book, but if you play other styles, you will be one of the slowest armies in a tournament. Or
kind of Fire Slayer-ish.
Almost Fire Slayer-ish, not quite that. Shooting, there are some shooting builds with the Bone Splitters.
Okay, and I have not played against that, but all right.
I can't speak too much, but I do know there are some individuals. They do have bows and they can shoot. So you could potentially have a shooting build based upon the Bone Splitters. If you're playing the Iron Jaws, no.
Not so much.
Not so much at all. Shooting's not a thing. And I don't even think you would play the Bone Splitters to play a shooting army. You might have some shooting add-on.
Yeah.
Magic, there is a build that you can have a couple of these shaman in there, the weird knobs, and it can be very strong. Compared to their other strengths, I don't necessarily ever see that happening, and I think right now it's a buff add-on, and we'll talk a little later in competitiveness about some of the point changes, but they did just go up in points because they're a value.
They are, but they're not a magic heavy.
No, it's not
army.
magic heavy, but I think it shocks some people with some of the things their magic can do.
Okay.
You think of orcs and fight, and all of a sudden the magic user does something, you're like, wow.
Oh, wow.
The puke and the foot and the hand. They do a lot of different things.
I will say in Destruction there is a lot to up. Copious Vomit. I think that's what it was.
Is the one, yes. Killing, yes. You get a unit in and hit. I know the Bone Splitters can do that, but the Iron Jaws can do that also. It can be big time killing.
They do. They have the potential to really wreak havoc once they get to you, and if you have enough models.
Tanky, pretty good saves. I guess the reason I have a problem with being tanky with the Iron Jaw side is low model count. Every time you lose one, it's a larger impact on your army. Bone Splitters, I've seen them with a lot of models on the tabletop. So I think there's some options there for durability. We talk about competitiveness. If we were starting all over again, we'd probably have gone the Bone Splitters route.
Probably.
That probably would have been the route. Flexibility, you've got Hand to Gork, you've got some speed with your Gore Gruntas. Bone Splitters have some speed, so you could make a flexible army if that's what you're looking at.
I think you'd have to be intentional for it,
You would have to be very intentional.
Because I think just like some of the Gloomspite, it's very much a move forward, and fight.
It's absolutely like that sometimes. Yeah. Competitiveness. Now, we were at Midwest Meltdown.
Okay, last year.
Over 100, 5-game, 2-day tournament. Some very competitive players.
Yep, from all over. Yep.
And one of the Orc War Clans players, and I don't even remember his list that well, he finished in the top 5. And everybody was saying, oh my gosh, nobody thought that army was going to be able to do that. Now, he is an absolutely fantastic player.
Who probably has played that build over and over and over.
He's tweaked it and built it and understood what type of scenarios are going to be in the tournament, so he designs it for those type of scenarios. In the hands of an outstanding player, I think it can do shocking things.
Yeah.
And other than that, I think it's a very average.
It is definitely mid-tier, I would think. And I would say they would get some points adjustments. I really do think that it could be a great army.
Yes. The Mega Boss went down 10 points. Great model, and he was expensive. Yes, the Brutes went down 10 points.
Okay.
But Ardboys went up, Weird Knob Shaman went up, and then some of the Bone Splitters went up. And I went, I don't see this coming to a lot of tournaments.
And I was shocked that the Maw Crusher did not go down.
Absolutely. We don't see it a lot, and when you do see it, it's not dominating. And it doesn't have a high model count, especially the Iron Jaws side. So I was a little shocked to see points going up.
I was a little surprised too. I would really like to see them get some points adjustment to help them balance against some of our bigger horde armies that we have out there.
Now, I did play a Bone Splitters in the last 2-day tournament, the one we went to in February, but it was a very close game with my Sylvan. He ended up doing very well. He might have finished in the top 5 on that tournament, but if it were not for priority roll, I would have probably beat him that game with my Sylvaneth. So I think that even in that, with a very good player, they might be slightly above Sylvaneth, right in that range. I don't
But
know
still
them
not
well enough.
mid-tier.
And we've not been in a lot of tournaments in the last couple months, so
True.
we don't know for sure. Not just us. No one's been in a lot of tournaments.
Right.
So it might turn around over the next couple months. Somebody's going to come in with a big Maw or a Bone Splitters build that just dominates.
And quite honestly, because the book came out not too terribly long before COVID-19 hit, it may not have just been able to been mastered yet.
It came out a while, but the tournament scene takes some time to really see how it has.
Yes, so it just may not have reached its peak yet.
So I don't really think that for a new player, they could view this as a very competitive army. I think with experience and tweaking, you could make it into an impressive army or a respectable competitive army. And you never know. Time might tell it turns into be a very competitive army. But I wouldn't say that's the reason to get into it if you were a new player.
No. As a matter of fact, I would caution a new player personally on the Orc Warclans battletome, just simply because there aren't enough models to really hold your own. The painting is a little bit of a struggle, and you're just not going to have enough people who you know who play them to help you out.
And the book includes different styles of playing that require not just styles like in models. Whether you go with a big Maw and you're calculating your Maw points or whatever else it is, or the Iron Jaws,
yes,
it's drastically different ways those armies are playing. So I do think to play it well, it requires more of an experienced player. And I don't necessarily know if it's the best place to start, unless you absolutely love orcs.
True.
If you absolutely love orcs, then let's say you go, I'm going to go Bone Splitters, and you go Bone Splitters, and you get them and you play them, you're going to be all right.
Oh, absolutely. You're still going to have a great time with them. They're just a little bit more difficult, I think, to master. Yeah. Not so straightforward.
I think if the rule of cool about orcs for you, and like George loves dwarves, and always knows that, and he wants to play dwarves. Yeah. If you've been that way with orcs, if you play D&D, and you have a chance to play an orc or a half orc, and you want to play when you're that guy,
or you just love that
jump in. I'm not going to talk you away from it. I just wouldn't recommend it.
I think just the caution.
Yes, there's a caution there. Other than that, Orc Warclans? Maybe. Thumbs, maybe a little bit up, but that's about it. Beastclaw Raiders and
Ogre Maw Tribes.
Now, we're putting both these together. We have very limited experience with both of these.
Right. We've played against both of those a few times.
And we'll talk about that when we come to competitiveness. We'll go over the games that we've played against them to kind of let you know from that what we felt, who we played against them, and how we felt. But we knew we didn't know that much, so we asked friends of ours, and we put on our Facebook page for people who do have experience to give us their input. And after we go over the initial things, the painting and all the stuff we do, we're going to read from a lot of that, of what the people told us
share with
about.
you. We reached out and said, hey, tell us about what you like about it, what you think is good for a new person in this, and we got some great suggestions.
We got some great suggestions. So thank you very much for everybody who gave us input.
And contributed.
Because
absolutely.
Without that, we'd have been, we don't know. But painting, I think, in the models we've seen, if you were to go with the Beastclaw Raiders and the Bigs.
Oh my gosh, I
Yetis,
so want to paint one of those Thunder Tusks. I really do. I think that they are so cool looking.
I'm kind of lost and looking for an army right now. But Tracy's about done with the Skaven with the Vermin Lord.
Yes.
Oh, they're
almost
gorgeous.
done painting them.
I'm going to have to play them a couple times just to make you feel good for doing all that
Thank
paint
you.
work. So, but I think they could be a good place to start painting-wise.
I do too. I think with the Bigs.
With the Bigs.
However.
Yetis too.
Yetis and
their fur and everything else.
Tiger things they have.
But when you go to the Maw Tribe end of it, the Ogre, that's a lot of skin.
Yes, it is.
And that could be a challenge for a brand new painter.
Right.
To do that much skin, you can throw contrast on them, but with how big those models are and how much skin, I really don't know how that's going to look. I really think you need to get into how to layer skin. Which, if you do those and spend the time and get to do it, you have mastered one of the most difficult parts of painting.
Yeah,
but
they could look amazing.
Could be a challenging one to
probably going to want to watch a lot of videos on that one.
Transport travel, I think this is an easier one because there's
especially
not a lot of
if you go with the Maw Tribe.
The Maw Tribes, you're talking about a whole bunch of a little smaller than a Mega Boss, but because we don't have any of those models.
Yeah, but then you have the Bigs.
But then you've got the Bigs, but Almost all armies have bigs.
Yes, most armies do.
But you wouldn't have a large volume of them. Now, cost. This has been, for me and reading everybody saying, the number one reason to get into these armies.
Yes.
Maw Tribes, multiple people told us, might be one of the least expensive armies to get into.
To start.
So that is a big consideration. It's a, tear between cost and the painting, but they're easy to travel. So I wouldn't let the painting have you stay away from that.
No,
Because it is a good cost point and a cheaper army to get into. So you might want to look at it from that aspect. Now, when you talk about play styles, these are the things we don't know about.
Right, so we can only give you our experience of playing against them.
Let's talk first about the games we've had against either one of them. LVO, our team tournament. Nothing is more frustrating for me than traveling to Las Vegas, having a team tournament. I brought Stormcast because they were easy to travel with. We put them in a plastic thing for 1,000 points, and I carried them on the plane, laying out my 9 long strike crossbows, and having one of those big beast claw guys make it on a charge.
Because they were faster than we thought.
They're faster than I thought. Touch one of those long strike crossbows and first turn kill all 9 of them right off the table.
Okay, so first of all, since we don't have a lot of experience playing with them, they did shock us at how fast they move.
Absolutely.
And then how hard they hit.
Yes.
We were very surprised by that.
And I had heard from everybody, the dirty snowball went away. The old ones, they could hand out 6 mortal wounds with the snowball they threw, and that happened when I played them the old corn years ago. So I always had a bad taste in my mouth based upon 6 mortal wounds at how many inches? That got nerfed. So that's not a big strength. So I really underestimated them. Don't do that.
No.
Do not underestimate them. I did play a Thunder Tusks and Yeti build at Midwest Meltdown with my corn. And it was a very close game. That came down to, I needed them to kill Scar Bloodwrath so he could teleport on the backside and take the objective and win. And I made every one of my 5+ saves. That just happens sometimes. But that was my corn against them. And it was when the new book came out. Wasn't a really strong build I had. And I almost won that one.
I will tell you, I played against the Maw Tribes twice. Once with Daughters of Cain, and I was shocked at how hard they hit. So they went through my witches like this. I was really, really surprised by that. So I was more prepared the next time I played against them. The problem is that we had a scenario where you sit on your objective and I sit on my objective, and we just looked at each other across the table for like 3 turns. I did underestimate them, however, because I was getting bored by turn 3, and I'm like, okay, I want to move forward and fight something, right?
And you exposed yourself.
Yes, I did. So I moved forward, and it didn't take much for them to hit me. They hit hard. Also, they count as 2 per objective. So I got outnumbered because even though they didn't have very many models, they beat me. I believe every model counts as 2 models. Is that what it is? Yes.
We're getting that wrong. Correct us in the comments down below, please. You want to see what that actual rule is? I'm sure one of our fans will correct that now.
Yes.
So George played against Ogre Maw Tribe, and he played with his Fire Slayers, and that did not go well. Fire Slayers walked over the Maw Tribe. Which Fire Slayers can do that against them. That's a slow unit, hitting a slow unit. George has that going first and all this type of thing. So I don't really know. Playstyle, they seem slow if you're Maw Tribes. The big beasts can be fast. Yetis can be fast. Shooty, now that the snowballs are gone. But the Maw Tribes have big cannons and stuff they can fire.
They do, yes. Now that you say that, I remember.
We're going to have to move on and tell you what the experienced players have
people
with
who know.
So a lot of these things we don't know. Overall competitiveness, I think that the Maw Tribes, there have not been enough tournaments out to really tell where they are. I think Beast Claw is on a 5-day competitive tournament. They walk out 2 and 3. That's what they expect. They could go 1 and 4. I think 3 and 2 would really be pushing it for Beast Claw Raiders right now, unless you're absolutely.
We don't see them that much.
And if we do see them, I hate to say it, maybe we see them on a lot of the lower tables. That's what ends up happening. I don't necessarily know how competitive they are. Beast Claw Raiders. Maw Tribes might be more.
I tend to think so.
But I don't think there's been enough tournament time yet to fully tell.
With their new book.
Now let's get on to reading what some of the people who gave us much better advice than we're giving you gave. Okay, first, and this is from someone who is an incredibly experienced player. He takes this very seriously, has won GTs, runs tournaments himself. So Of all the people I know, I trust his opinion more than anybody else.
Credible, sure.
Beastclaw Raiders is one of the least expensive armies to buy. Maw Tribes without Beastclaw Raiders is a middle cost army. All of it very low model count, so transport super easy. Can be an extremely killy army, but not very durable.
Oh, so not tanky.
And that might be because of low model count.
Could be.
It could be saying that. BCR, Beastclaw Raiders, is very fast, and the Foot Ogres are medium speed. There are a ton of playstyle options in the book, from 5 Stonehorns to 40 Ogres, and everything in between. The different subfactions really let you customize the army. You can have really powerful combat builds, very effective magic users, and even a shooting build that will catch some folks off guard.
Right?
Maw Tribes as a book is great to play as either Gutbuster or BCR, as well as mixed. There are maybe 2 War Scrolls in the book that aren't worth your time, but otherwise it will be money well spent. And that's from somebody I absolutely trust. And this was on our Facebook page, so Nick Simone, who thank you very much for posting. Gutbusters are fairly inexpensive to start up a 2K army, so that's a plus. I found it comes down to proper deployment and smart movement phases as the keys to victory. But after that, just throw dice and let the feast commence. He says it's one of the easier armies to learn to play as well, as opposed to, say, Sylvaneth, which we agree. Sylvaneth can be a much more complex army for a new player. And some other people agreed with him.
Right.
Actually, people jumped on with that. And the last one we've got on here I'm going to read from Kaz Caswell. BCR is the cheapest to get going for an army and are fun to paint. Gutbusters, depending on build, can get expensive, however, pack one heck of a punch. But the best bet is the fact you can mix and match an entire force, a bit like the Big Wah in the Auric War Clans.
Oh, okay.
So it provides some growth and some flexibility. So from that, we do have people that are saying good place to start for starters. And the people, we trust their opinions. So if you like the ogre look, and that's something that attracts you, the bigs, the Stonehorns, all that, they're gorgeous.
They really are.
They are absolutely gorgeous.
Amazing.
I would say are unqualified to give.
If you want to trust us.
If you want to trust us. But you can trust the others. That a potential thumbs up on Ogre Maw Tribes and Beastclaw Raiders.
Yes.
And that is it. We have gone through all 4.
Yeah,
We've
all 4 alliances.
And we hope you enjoyed this. We do hope to get some battle reports out. But I might be doing one on magnets. Still trying to convince Tracy one on maybe some painting. Let's see if that's a possibility. People ask her all the time. Her thing is speed. She gets things done fast. I am a slow painter. She is a very quick painter and just gets things going. And today, the day we film, is a big day for GW. This is the day this came out. And we have a big announcement. Tracy has a Drukari army, and she's going to start painting and might get Tracy to play some 40K against the boys.
I'm going to try. Give it a shot.
Give it a shot. So with that, thank you very much for watching.
Please like and subscribe.
Absolutely. Please like and subscribe, make a comment. Of course, stay safe as we are all going through this together. And thank you very much. I am Steve.
And I'm Tracy.
And we are the Partners at War. And
keep playing.
Absolutely.
Do 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 do.
Now I'll just burp.